So I'm making a response video from some of my followers and some of the people that I've helped. And this was from learning from people that's had MCS for 20, 30 years. And I've talked to hundreds of people over the phone. I don't claim to be no expert, but some of the stuff that these guys is putting out here is really frustrating me in the way that they've acted, especially toward people that's, you know, looking for help, has really frustrated me. So I'm making this video. Number one, I like to say this. I don't make any money off of this. The only money I made is a GoFundMe page. Number three is I have helped people. Number four is I'm all about the advocacy. So hands off to Erik and Mr. Rossner for their advocacy. But they are wrong about some things. I'm going to go into that in this video. And this is not by no means a disrespectful video, putting nobody down. If it works for you, that's great. I've had MCS, mold toxicity, and Lyme disease. So I could just tell from talking to these guys, they have a one-track frame of mind. It's kind of like talking to the guys that built the Empire State Building. They think that's the only way to do it. We're going to use steel girders, and it's going to stay this way, and nothing, you know, nothing's going to change. This is the only way, avoidance. And I'm all about the avoidance. That's great. But there's other aspects that y'all are missing. And there's some fallacies and things that you're saying. And in this video, I'm going to go into it. And I'm going to analyze it, and I'm going to prove it to you. Okay. Number one, the advocacy. Can't talk today. I wrote to Congress. I've sent several letters out, helping get sick building syndrome recognized, MCS recognized. My goal and purpose is to help people, not be disrespectful, and I can just tell from talking to Mr. Johnson and Mr. Rossner, they have a one frame set of mind. So I want to jump straight into it. My first interaction that I had with Mr. Johnson was I was trying to design safe housing for MCS people and mold illness people. I used to work in construction, so I know a little bit about humidity and climate control and all that stuff. I own my own home. I bought my first home when I was 24 years old. Completely remodeled and gutted it. It was a mold box like most mobile homes. And camper. I learned the hard way about campers. I'm going to go into that in this video. So my first interaction that I had with Erik Johnson that really turned me away from the teachings of Mr. Johnson. And like I said, this is just constructive criticism. Just keep an open mind. So my first interaction was he's tagged me in this post about this metal low VOC building that it's kind of very similar that you see in Snowflake, Arizona. And he basically come on this is on the Toxic Mold Group website, and he said, Mr. Rossner, he's trying to reinvent the wheel. Okay. Why knock somebody, especially a generation that's trying to help stop sick building syndrome? That's part of the advocacy. And the only thing that on these two groups you talk about is mold avoidance. But you can't avoid mold if you're not solving the problems. Okay, that's number one. So get that, get that in your mind. Number two is I've had a lot of failures. I've been through exactly the same thing that y'all been through. I've been so mold sick. I've been in sick buildings, and I'd have itchy lungs for 2 months. So I'm on a severe spectrum. And I'm going to educate y'all on things that y'all don't know. Okay? This was my second interaction with Erik Johnson, and it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So I was looking for guidance. I was looking for, I said, I'm all ears. I'm looking for guidance, education, all ears on this. And I was talking about, so I'm new. I've had MCS for 2 years. I'm on a mold illness scene. I got Lyme disease. I had a failed mobile home. It was completely remodeled. I learned the hard way. I took a $20,000 loss on it. And I was talking about, you know, buying a camper and, you know, et cetera, not going into all the details because I don't have time to make a real long video. But basically in the video, or in the post, his first response was talking about anaphylaxis from mold, and he was talking, then I sent him, I used to suffer from seizures from, or partial seizures from certain times of the year. It didn't matter where I lived at, where I was. It was from the metabolic activity of the mold certain times of the year, like the pollens and stuff. And my mast cell doctor had posted a thing, or a piece of paper on a wall, talking about how mold sensitive people shouldn't be raking leaves. It's common sense. Because of the mold, you know, they're breaking down. But anyway, here's what really surprised me about his response. He says, the idea of being reactive to anything outside. So hold on, drop the phone. There we go. Back to it. He wrote, the idea of being reactive to anything outside is foreign to me. That would be outside the realm of normal life as we know it on planet Earth. If the trees, leaves, and mulch, etc. are toxic to me, this would only mean that they are contaminated with something unnatural. Okay? And then he goes on to write, I would consider a reaction to pine trees as an extension of chemical reactivity growing to encompass terpenes from pine sap. This necessarily doesn't mean pine trees are toxic. Okay. So undoubtedly he's never been eat up with poison oak. Undoubtedly, I guess he's never been to the East Coast. If you ask anybody that's had poison oak, and I know this is different or off topic, but poison oak, use this for example. Poison oak's job is to make a toxic substance, that way you don't mess with it. The same way with mold. Okay? Mold is made to make you sick. It's made to keep you away from it. Mold has been around for millions of years. It's designed that way. Has it gotten worse? I don't know the answer to that. But when I read, you know, some of the stuff that gets sent to me from some of the people that I've helped, they private message me about some of the posts about radioactive mold from outer space and all this rubbish stuff. I don't pay no attention to it because I know contractors, and like myself, they work mold for 30 years. They drive the same little old Chevrolet truck. Its top speed's 55 miles an hour. They've gutted houses their whole life. Wore no mask whatsoever. And perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. The little Chevrolet truck's never seen a shampoo in its life. Perfectly fine from mold. Drop over dead at 70 from cancer. Was it from the mold? No, it doesn't necessarily mean it was from the mold. They lived a long, good life. Now, you got to understand, with us, we're so chemically and environmentally damaged that we're that small minority that we react to. We react very severely. We're environmentally sensitive is what I call it. And people that don't have it don't get it. And they never will get it unless they do have it. And people that is sick from sick building syndrome, they're not going to contribute to where they went to school from and the ceiling tiles leaked and all that. But so your advocacy, hats off to you 100%. But I'm going to say y'all are wrong about some things. And I'm going to go into some other stuff. The flip side, I know that it wasn't no reasoning or no convincing or no negotiation at all. Like I said, stuck in that one set mindset that oh yeah, the outdoor molds don't matter, but reacting to anything in nature, that, you know, that's baloney. Okay, you got allergies. Allergies existed long before any of this new worldly stuff. The genetic weak immune system or bad immune system, they die out. The people that's got good genetics, good ways to detox, they live normal healthy life, they get a free pass their whole life. So let's debunk some other things here. So yes, things in nature can make you sick. Imagine that. Outdoor molds do matter. Then when they talk about the other thing was humidity. Humidity doesn't, you know, it doesn't really matter. It's a high humidity area. I will tell you from first-hand experience, high humidity will exacerbate any chronic condition, arthritis, asthma, any of that. I had family that had asthma long before toxic chemicals or any of that. It was on my great-great-grandfather's draft card that he had weak lungs, and this was before a lot of this stuff even come into existence. Let's go on the Roster page a little bit. So many fallacies here, okay? So he has a whole page dedicated to mold avoidance. And I'm going to be a little random about this because I can't really read it in order because I can't really see. But his post, it kind of goes like this. It's really fascinating and deserved my repulsion to MT over the years since starting avoidance. I mean, I would go through this. I always thought that as time went on, I would get more tolerant of MT due to healing, which I suppose is true. I can handle more of it, I guess, but I never expect that a much stronger desire to just move on with my life, leaving MT completely behind. The desire is much stronger now than it was in early avoidance, which is kind of surprising to me. I mean, the flip side is that cities that used to feel bad to me now feel fine, and I love going to them. Okay, it goes back to my theory. You get sensitized to an area. You're environmentally sensitive. You're the minority, as I should say, the worst like me, and I know what you're going through. I've had a failed home. I've had a failed camper. Okay? You know, there are several different environments that I had to try to, you know, see some healing or see some improvement. So I totally get that. You know, I know exactly what you're talking about. Another one of his posts, I've never been abused. I've had a pretty good life, but for some reason, MT feels like abuse to me. It seems like everything gives nothing, has no concern for a person's limits or tolerance. It strikes again and again with no concern of others. it knows no limits. It strikes at the very heart of what matters in life. And, you know, reading through these, and okay, so let me go back here, because they're not in order, because I didn't take time to structure the video. But so let's put it this way. Here's what the point of it is. So he's been doing mold avoidance for 10, 15 years. I don't know. That's the cure, or the according to the derogative or narrative of the group, is mold avoidance. And that's all I say: mold avoidance, mold avoidance, mold avoidance. But yet he takes one empty slam dunk and he can't tolerate his camper. What? So you've been doing mold avoidance for 15 years, and just like in this post, nope. Mold doesn't cause MCS. This is why I didn't react at all to my ATC and could sleep in it even when brand new. But the chemicals now bother me after an epic empty slam dunk. Imagine that. So, been doing mold avoidance for 15 years, and you can't tolerate the lowest VOC camper that they make. Huh. Okay. I can't tolerate them either. Guess what? I've been mold sick for 2 years, and my MCS didn't even come from mold toxicity. I was actually living in a new home with my parents, and I didn't buy the molded home till after my MCS had started, because I thought maybe it was the cigarette smoke. So another one of his posts. Let's take a look here. I think I done read this, and it's really fascinating to observe my repulsion to MT over the years since starting avoidance. I mean, I always thought as time went on I would get more tolerant to MT. So you've been doing nothing but avoidance, but you're not really seeing the progress that you're happy with. So I done read the other one. And here's what concerned me was, he put this post on here, and he said, well, there's no need to wonder anymore. Erik was right as usual. No wood or cellulose, no problematic mold, more or less. I've had discussion leak for a year in the ATC during heavy rains. Well, today I took it apart. No slam dunk, no hit, no nothing. You know, that might have been why you was reacting to your ATC. And then here's what gets me more than anything and surprises me, is he has a whole page dedicated on ATC and Casita about how great they are, and then turns right around another post and he says, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant about RVs. The way you can see it, it's got terrible glare. I have multiple people tell me about the RVs are broken or could be broken, or they read reviews about RVs being broken. That kind of information is totally meaningless to me. Let me tell you why. First of all RVs are garbage. I mean, every single one of them. And if they aren't garbage by the time they get to you, they will most definitely be contaminated, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Mr. Roster, I agree with you right there. 100%. All RVs are garbage. Okay? I've owned one that was all aluminum, same ordeal as yours and everything. It did have wood. I went into ATCs, had terrible reactions to them. And I will say this much. And I've seen your other post that's sent to me, and what don't make absolutely no sense is you're on here, you're promoting ATC about how great it is, you know, blah, 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 and you're building the ATC. Let me tell you from my experience in construction, anything with a flat roof is junk, okay? And the reason why I say that is the old school type construction, the barns, etc., etc., they had an A-frame roof on. And that A-frame roof allowed the condensation to roll from one side to the other. They had ventilation. They didn't condensate. It was very hard to condensate. That's why you didn't see mold toxicity in a lot of the old timers, because they had drafty windows, the old wood barns. It had the natural cut lumber. They would go 150, 200 years and you wouldn't see a speck of mold on them. Campers rely on encapsulation. The older houses relied on ventilation. And you have to have ventilation. I don't care if it's a Casita, I don't care if it's an ATC, I don't care if it's a $100,000 camper. Them things have flat roofs. That condensation has nowhere to go. They fill them full of spray foam, and I don't give a damn if it's got Asdale or what it's got. If it's got porous materials, and if it gets wet, it's one time, twice. Think of wet clothes in a dryer. That's all it takes for mold to start growing. Okay? I figured out I do well in houses or structures that's got A-frame roofs. Most of you sick buildings, your dollar stores, etc., etc., here in the United States have flat roofs, like the schools. They got the ceiling tiles that you see it gets wet. The condensation has nowhere to go, and they're not ventilated properly. The reason why the barns lasted so long was because they had high pitches, high ventilation, they was drafty, and you didn't see mold toxicity near as much, okay? These campers are absolute junk. Every camper that I've helped take apart, and I've helped take many apart, the flat roofs and the way that they're made, they're encapsulated because they're made to be airtight when they go down the road. That moisture, that water vapor has nowhere to go. So I have tested, I put humidistats, weather vanes and stuff inside of campers. I noticed the humidity stays 60, 70, 80% at all times. That water vapor has nowhere to go. So where does it go? It goes into porous materials. It goes into Asdale. It goes into insulation. And it doesn't take long for that mold to set up. So what I find disappointing is you have a whole group dedicated on promoting ATC. I don't care if you sell them. You said you done $1 million in treatments. That's great if you're making money off of it, but let me tell you this, I wouldn't even be promoting campers to start out with, because a lot of the problems with mold toxicity, if you look on the Toxic Mold website, it was 29,000 out of the 33,000 members was from the United States versus the rest of the world, because wood, etc., etc., is mostly used here in the United States. They don't use wood construction so much, I think, over in Germany and some of the European countries. And mold toxicity is a lot rarer there than it is here. So it's the cheap mobile homes, the flat roofs, it's the construction. They want to make it completely airtight because 10 years ago we got on this kick of energy consumption savings. Make it warmer. People don't want to pay their light bill, and I get that. I understand, that people want to save money, but so need to, in my opinion, you do your group your way you want to. Need to get rid of the whole camper ordeal, because I'd hate to see somebody spend $70,000, do well 2 or 3 years, and then turn right around. And I don't care if it's got the anti-mold Asdale. The reason you're reacting to your ATC is because the Asdale is just a new chemically treated pressed board that's replaced formaldehyde, and it actually has mold inhibitors in it. And over time, you can get sensitized to that. And that's how bad chemically sensitive I am. But, so, some other topics that I want to hit on is, instead of taking that $70,000, just have you one bed, one bath, basic A-frame roof, well ventilated, have your intake, your soffit intake double what your ridge cap is. And if you notice, the humidity in a true A-frame, well-ventilated house will stay below 50% without dehumidifiers. And you don't have to run all that bull crap like in the campers. My camper, my humidity stayed high. My grandmother's house, it's an A-frame roof. She lets me stay there sometimes, and I do really well in it. Her humidity always is below like 55%. And when they tore the roof off and I looked at all the insulation, no mold whatsoever. Every camper I've had dealings with, don't matter what brand, aluminum, whatever, like I said, there was mold there, delamination. That water vapor and the humidity where it stays so high has nowhere to go. So I'd get rid of that. Let's see here. Let's see what we got. I've been to all the factories and watched them put together ATC and casita and mobile homes. Let's see. I didn't really like this post. This was before I got off the group. What I've learned, ask not how I can do less mold avoidance, like all the sick people. Rather ask how I will enjoy my newfound health after doing adequate mold avoidance. Enjoy your outdoor cooked bacon, suckers. I never would call any of my followers or people I'm trying to help suckers. Another post was, I'd asked him about chelation. Chelation has helped me, so I differ from him on that, I guess, because he says one thing in a comment and he says another thing in the video. I did 10 years super hardcore correlation chelation. I was friends with Andy Cutler, and even in his will before he passed away, I spent over $15,000 on DMPS and did all the fancy protocols. None of it helped me one bit. Yet when I was out of mold, the metals came out all by themselves. Or as the heavy metal hair analysis test. Sure, a few times I did help the metals along during avoidance, so I'm not sure if it mattered or not. But the interesting video, or the interesting part, is when you get into videos, it's like 11, 12 minutes in, he was talking about how Andy Cutler protocol saved his life. You know, so which was it? Was it mold avoidance or the Andy Cutler protocol? Another one of his posts, November 2021. I see a few people struggling with the same thing in early avoidance, so I want to talk about it. So they're getting this fancy RV or housing too soon, which I mean by fancy is simply too expensive or too scarce to be easily replaced by ATCs and can't talk today. Casitas are not easy to replace. They are expensive to come by. So ATCs are much less scarce at the moment. Calling, bugging casita a bunch of times seems to be able to secure a unit sooner. So one time he's promoting it, the next time, why are you promoting a mold box? Again, you know. Several videos about ATC. First, all RVs are garbage, but yet buy ATC, and mine's been leaking for a year. So it sounds like, from my analysis, you know, there's like one comment that he wrote was, my sensitivity started going away with mold avoidance and turned right around. Yep, mold didn't cause my MCS. Yeah, you know what caused your MCS? Toxic overload. Multisystematic. You're environmentally sensitive. You probably always will be, somewhat, like myself. And Mr. Johnson. That's why I gotta avoid everything as much as I can. But I'm also gonna be logical about it. I'm not gonna say one thing and say another thing. I'm not gonna say mold's the cure to it and know that, hey, I can't even tolerate the lowest VOC camphor. Now, enough about all that. If you want help, Bryan and Erik, if you were willing to listen, I'm gonna go into some things that I think that you could talk to your doctor about and try. I seen your little video about how you tried $100,000 worth of treatments and all this other stuff and sent a million messages out. It was PM to me from some of my people that I've helped. I want to give you a list of things to try, and the only thing you can do is try it. And if it don't work, then, you know, then that's fine, but at least try it, have an open mind. So my goal in this video is to help you. So let me kind of give you a list of a few things, and you're gonna think it's nutty, and you're gonna think it's odd, you're gonna think it's off the wall, but it helped me tremendously, and it got me out of a respirator from going in most stores except the detergent aisle. I've improved about 35% from not even changing states or any of that. I will say this, I lived absolutely mold free for a year and a half with none of these treatments, and I've seen absolutely no improvement. When I seen my improvement was when I started doing these things. But I know y'all are so closed-minded, y'all probably won't do it. But, because I know y'all got doctors, even though y'all say that y'all don't. But, I live completely mold-free house, low humidity. You know, I changed environments like 6-7 times. I've lived in my car. All the things that y'all talked about done, I've done. And this is coming from the 20 or 30 year people that's 80-90%, and it does, you know, a lot of things doesn't bother them anymore. So let's get right into that. So I'm gonna give you a list of a few things that you can try. If it don't work, you can call me a liar. Of course, I want you to talk to your doctor first. It's not medical advice. I just want to share what's helped me. But don't be so closed-minded. Anyway, let's get into it. Number one, get in something that's A-frame. Forget about those camphors. ATC, any of that, I see the same correlations. I even had a salesman out of Roanoke, Virginia, and they use the Asdale's very popular in the Coachman's. It's very popular in ATC, and it's very popular in a lot of the new Flagstaffs, and it's kind of the new formaldehyde. And what I find, or what I found out with multiple chemical sensitivity is it's exactly what it says, multiple chemical sensitivity, for a reason, because usually you don't start out sensitized to something and over time it builds up because your toxic load or your toxic burden's high. So you start out not sensitive to it, and over time you develop more sensitivities to it. So the chemically treated press board setup that you see with the ATC, it's just not a good idea. I seen your custom made camphor. I'd been a whole lot more happy with if it had an A-frame. You said it worked for you. I mean, I don't know if you bought a house or not, but anyway, if you go in, you buy a house, if it's had a water leak at all, when you're this environmentally sensitive, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work. Any building that I go in, if it's a dollar store, etc., if it's had just one water leak, I tend not to do well. What I do see from my treatments and stuff and things I've done is my tolerance goes up longer, you know, like it's a progression. It'll say, like, my camper makes me sick 5 minutes at my worst. Well, as I do my treatments and as I do my chelation or whatever, etc., the amount of time that I can tolerate it goes up before I hit my limit. So that's one analogy that I want you to get in your mind, or one idea that I found out, or one constant that I found out with multiple chemical sensitivity, mold toxicity, and Lyme disease. Number 2, and I want you to keep this in mind, I want you to read ingredients and stuff. There is a product called Zen Cleanse, and they make a liver and they make an intestinal one. And I've done videos on it. You can go down, you scroll down on my other videos. For, I would say, a year and a half, well, actually longer than that, almost 2 years, I could actually not eat out at all. I could not tolerate any processed food. But your stomach flora gets plaque, and it gets like built up, and your normal gut flora doesn't get rid of it. So what Zen Cleanse does, it's not like hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy tends to take people years, but see, a lot of people, you know, they get environmentally sensitive when they're 20s, 30s, a lot of times, you know, in the age group, because it takes so many years for that biodome to break down, and it makes you sicker, and a lot of people will go out and buy all these probiotics, but it really doesn't do any good, because with the Zen Cleanse, and like I said, you can look on my other videos and watch them, you know, this is what's helped me. And you know, at one time I was so bad, I even reacted in my car. You know, I had to wear a respirator just to go drive to the grocery store. So even though that I still have the sick building syndrome and, you know, the other conditions that a lot of y'all suffer with, my improvement, my quality of life is so much better now that I can, you know, I can go in a store and I can go get something. Can I go in there and hang out and just, you know, whatever? No, I can't do that. I can, you know, I can function again. You know, my cognition's better. But anyway, the Zen Cleanse, what it does, long story short, is you drink, you take these enzymes and you mix it in warm water, and they're fermented. And what it does is it kind of eats away at the bad bacteria in your gut, and you fast that day. And when I done that, when it eat away at the bad bacteria, and it's just a one-day thing, it's like $250, shipping and handling and all that. I learned it from an MCS veteran. He's about 80%. He lives about an hour from me. And I didn't believe, you know, like I said, I didn't believe in it. But I done it. I done the intestinal one first, and that was the most gentle one. And the enzymes break down the bad bacteria, and it got rid of most of the candida and stuff off the back of my tongue. And what happened was, after that, you drink fermented bottles, and it recultures your gut. And it recultures your gut and good bacteria. And I recommend doing this, you know, every 3 to 6 months. But I found it to be a really great product, because a week later, I was actually able to sit down and eat a Wendy's fry without throwing up. A big boo-boo I seen you doing was, I seen you eating bacon. Pork inhibits your body's ability to detox for hours. If I eat a lot of pork or any of that, I get like a lot of, you know, swelling and stuff in my face, and I get a lot of acne and stuff like that. and I have no allergy to it, but it's the processed materials. And when they wipe the tables down, I had a friend that worked cleaning the chicken factories and stuff, and that's what they would do, is they would wipe all the tables and stuff down with Clorox and stuff. So what you're doing is you're further sensitizing your body, and you're adding to your chemical load. And you know, one question that I have for you is, you know, I seen you doing the treatments and stuff, but was you doing the treatments when you was completely mold free, or, you know, toxin free, and you was doing everything right? Because I know, like, I can do everything right for 4 or 5 days, and it can just be that one bad day or that one bad thing that I do, and I go backwards. So it's like, the farther you are in the hole, the smaller things it takes to put yourself deeper in the hole, as far as the chemical sensitivity and the sickness. So I use this for example. I learned this from Dr. Stephanie McCarter. I don't know why, but these helped me out a whole lot. This cured my gastroparesis, my delayed stomach emptying. I used to throw up every day because I was so reactive to chemicals. I drank Mountain Valley spring water, and it's loaded with calcium, magnesium, potassium. I'm not very big into supplements or any of that. I do binders, but one thing I never hear y'all talk about is sauna. Sauna is really great for mold toxicity. Sauna is really great for chemical sensitivity. A lot of the 20-year survivors and a lot of the people that's improved and that has some kind of quality of life, to where, you know, I got a long way to go. It might be doing this 15 years, but the thing about it is sauna was a big help for me. Red light therapy was a big help. And a lot of people don't believe in the red light therapy, and that's fine. Red light therapy helps heal your mitochondria. And I was not a believer. Like, when I was in lab school, we never learned a thing about detox or MCS or mold toxicity. Never heard a thing about any of that. So I 100% agree with all that stuff. So the doctors don't know. But what I see on Johnson's page is blaming the doctors, blaming the doctors, blaming the doctors, blaming the doctors, blaming the doctors. The doctors can't do anything, okay? They can treat you in that room, but if they start putting labels on sick building syndrome and all this, and they obligate themselves that, hey, work made you sick, or, you know, you worked at that dollar store 15 years ago and it had mold and all that, it really puts them in a in a legal standpoint, to where they it really puts them in the crossfires, and they can't control your environment. You have to be the one to do that. You know, they can't. Everybody's really blaming the doctors and putting it on them. You know, they're there to treat you from what they're taught, medical science. And same way with me. You know, I never heard of mold toxicity or any of that until I got sick. I was in denial about my MCS diagnosis for over a year. I had seizures from, or partial seizures from mold and everything as I was trying to fix my house up, but that didn't end up working. But I knew so little about mold that, you know, I didn't know that it could be left behind, and even though it was good and all this other stuff. But anyway, back to Zen Cleanse. I think that'd be one thing that really would help you out. We got about 6 pounds of bacteria in our gut and our stomach and everything. I actually about cried, because a week after I done it, I actually was able to sit down and eat a fry and not throw it up. And that's something I don't recommend to anybody is, you know, when you start repairing these things, you know, you gut health or whatever, it doesn't mean you can just go out and just go back to doing what you're doing. But I just wanted to test it and just to see how much it would help. But, that's, you know, that could be something that you could talk to your doctor about. The mineral waters are really great. I noticed big improvements after 4 or 5 months with that. Other things, on a positive note, Fuji's also good. You know, I drank lots of Fuji, about 5-6 liters a day. I try to. It seems like my inflammation goes down. avoid eating out of any kind. Of course, as I said, the pork, you know, that's usually a big no-no. I'm big on the carnivore diet. Some people, they like the fruits and vegetables, but my swelling and stuff goes up, and I think it's the natural molds on the corn and stuff. But anyway, chemical sensitivity, it's complex, but like I was telling you about the salesman in Roanoke, he even told me, you know, he was like, I'm chemically sensitive to Azdel, and it's because he goes in them every day. He goes in, checks them, makes sure there's not no leaks or, excuse me, or any of that stuff. Another thing is, there was a guy that I knew, well, I didn't know, and it was a friend of a friend. He worked for Barrett Jackson. He worked with all the cleaners and waxes and all that stuff, and he developed Alzheimer's and a bunch of terrible conditions. There was another gentleman, he put leather on car seats. He done upholstery work. He got terribly sick. So many stories of chemical sensitivity, but you know, they sensitize that one thing severely. You know, if not that, cancer or whatever. But some other things, I'm not real big on the binders, even though I'm experimenting with that a lot. But back to the red light. The red light is really great because you can get it to sauna space. And sauna space has a certain kind of bulb, and it's a certain kind of photon frequency. But I learned about this from MCS veteran. He's about 70-80%. The hyperbaric chamber I hadn't done, but red light's proven because they use it on like veterinarian clinics using on wounds and stuff like that to help heal wounds. You use it on like newborn babies. Use it for grow lights for marijuana, cannabis, help it grow like in greenhouses. So that really helps mitochondrial damage. Like my most affected organ was my lungs. So I love red light on my lungs. It just helps so much, and it just helps so much with the healing. I can do it 3 or 4 times a week, and I notice my sensitivities go down. I can tolerate buildings more. I can tolerate chemicals more. No sodas. Of course, you probably already know this. Dairy is major inflammatory. Food, breads, grains, GMO. I'm sure you talked about you've been to several these conferences, but I noticed, no dairy, like I said, no grains, no breads, no cane sugar. That's very, very key. I can just drink cane sugar. My sensitivities go way up. But, a lot of people, they do these things, and they do the avoidance for 6 months or a year, and they expect these huge improvements, and it don't work that way. It was 6 months of doing everything right, basically starving myself, and I'd lost like 50 pounds, and it's proven microtoxins are stored in fat cells, so I'd lost a bunch of weight, and I got better. But the analogy that I use to people is, think of a smoker's lungs. Your body hits its limit, its environmental load or whatever. It hits its limit to where it can't take anymore, and it develops, because mine started out at the same time, even though I wasn't living in mold. And, the mold toxicity and all that stuff. But, the thing about it is, let's see, I lost my train of thought. Hold on here just a second. I know what analogy I was going to use. The analogy I was going to use is like a smoker's lungs. If it took 30 years or 20 years for it to get that contaminated, it may take that long for it to get uncontaminated. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're in mold, or let's say you're in toxic chemicals, or let's say you got Lyme disease, and let's say all these, you got underlying lymes, your body's dealing with it. You got like every virus that you ever have, your entire life, your body holds on to it. But it's when your body's weak, it flares it up. That's why, like, when old people is in a nursing home, they get bladder infections and stuff, because we all have bad bacteria in our body. And the thing about it is, these things flare up when our organs and stuff's weak. So when we're chemically poisoned or mold poisoned or whatever, all these things flare up. Same way with the Lyme. So if you get rid of the environmental load, I'll open this door, it's getting a little hot. So when you get rid of the load behind that, the infections tend to calm down on their own. So the way I want you to look at it is, take my car for example. Okay, my car, I bought it brand new, it's my body. Okay, I go in a bunch of mud and stuff, it gets contaminated, it gets all greasy, grimy. That's the contaminants, okay? And let's say I do avoidance, I park the car in a garage. Yeah, it don't get any worse, but the mud and the dirt and all that's still there. The filters might be dirty, you know, I started up, it may not run, the gas may be contaminated. That's why you gotta hit it from all angles. You gotta do the Zen cleanse. You gotta put good water in your body. You gotta have good air. It's the same way with a plant, a tree farm, a garden. The more work that you put in that garden, the more it's gonna grow and prosper. You know, if you do everything right for 4 days, and you do crappy stuff on the 5th or 6th day, it's really going to hinder the healing of that garden. And the more delicate that plant is, let's say this is when you're chemically or environmentally sick, it's going to take a smaller and smaller amount to hurt the plant until it gets big and strong, like you was before you got chemically sick or environmentally sick. So this goes back to my theory is, what you want to do is you want to wash the car, you want to change the filter, you want to hit this from all angles. It's not just avoidance, you know. It's multi-systematic, you know. It's just like the liver Zen cleanse. I talked about the intestinal one. I done the liver Zen cleanse. I passed 22 gallstones, and you talking about miserable? I was miserable for 3 weeks, passing 22 at one time. But anyway, after that, I felt better. I felt less chemically sensitive. I mean, it's, and what disappoints me about the groups is I don't see any talk about any of that. Another great example is, and I don't like to talk about this because this is nasty, but when I was in lab school, there was a lady, her biodome was so messed up, and she was so sick. And she had, I think it was colitis and something else. I don't remember exactly what it was. But what had happened was her gut flora was so messed up. What they done, they took dry, compacted waste from another human, and they had put it in her, and it recultured her gut, and it fixed her gut health. There's so many things that I see that's not covered on y'all's groups and everything. Run them how you want. You can take the advice if you want. If not, and I got y'all blocked anyway because I don't want to hear it, because I know what's helped me. And I could tell from the first conversation with Rossner, he was down to me about a wood trailer. I didn't know wood rot was fungus. So and then I see several posts about I don't want to help nobody no more. Well, don't help them, you know. Me, I want to help people for a while until I can't do it no more. And I might fall over dead tomorrow, but I just want to do what I can do to help people and put the good out there. And my many different experiences, I think even though Mr. Johnson has knocked it down, I think a better structure could be built for us, the ones that's really worse, and then when we get more tolerant, we can live in regular houses and stuff again. And I do think that it will be more common. And you know, I see chronic fatigue syndrome come up a whole lot, and that's kind of a fallacy, because the thing about chronic fatigue syndrome, if you're sick, of course you're going to feel bad, not have no energy. I mean, duh. So I don't know why it's so much emphasis put on that. Let's put emphasis on treatment. Let's put emphasis on housing. Let's put emphasis on, because I see people doing avoidance. They live in a tent outside for 5 years and they still can't go in a building. And me, I want to go back to work and stuff. You know, I want to do something with my life, you know. And I'm not saying you ain't tried. I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way. It's just do the waters, do the Zen cleanse, avoid the pork, avoid the dairy, avoid the GMO, organic, because you're just making yourself go right back downhill, and you'll find yourself reacting to a new thing, and then do a new thing, and do a new thing, and do a new thing, and it never ends. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap the video up. I feel like I've covered what I wanted to cover. If you want to learn more about how I have made the progress, you can look at the other videos. If not, I can't really help you. Talk to your mast cell doctor or whatever doctor you see, mold toxicity, or your mentors. I seen your post. It was PM to me about you sent 1 million messages over 3 years. That's like 1,000 a day. Undoubtedly, they're not helping you the way that they should, but I just so happen lucky. Oh, another thing, Ace by Thorn. It's adrenal cortex extract. That's something else I want to mention to you. Is I noticed a big improvement with my tolerances with that, because a lot of people that has the chronic fatigue, their adrenals get tight, and it's like ground up goat liver. It's not a chemical, but I noticed a big improvement with it, so it might be something to try. It's like $13 a bottle. Red light. You know, it doesn't have to be nothing special. I mean, if it's, you know, just keep sweating and just keep it simple. It don't have to be $2,200 hyperbaric chamber treatments or stem cell therapy or any of that. But, you know, the derogative on just avoidance, it don't work. Y'all know it don't work. So, am I doing avoidance? Yeah. But the goal is to get back to tolerance. So, peace. Y'all have a good one.